unfortunately, I know a number of people who were let go from various positions and layoffs, but they were not able to ever gain employment in IT again. They just either became too depressed, they didn't have a current skill set anymore.
This is Journey to Point B, where you can find success stories of people who have achieved the same goals you're striving for. I'm your host, Lucia Csoma, and it's my hope that these stories will provide motivation for your own journey to Point B. Tom, hi. It's so great to have you on my show. Welcome.
I'm excited to be here. I've watched a few of your shows already, and
that's
I like
such a
them.
compliment. Thank you so much. Before we get into our conversation about the goals that you have reached, I was wondering, Tom, if you can give us like 3 things about you that would help us know you a little bit better.
Sure. So 3 things. Let me think. I've worked in IT now since '97. I live in Texas, and I have a wife and a son, and I like exercise. I like to do things outdoors. I like a lot of exercise. Not really a pool person, not really a beach person.
More
So
like weightlifting, or what type of exercise do you like?
yeah, or
Uh-huh.
running, right? Or hiking, stuff that's outdoors,
Mm-hmm.
right? I lived in Colorado for a bit, so it's a little bit easier to do hiking there than Texas. Texas is a little flatter,
Mm-hmm.
but it's still nice.
Yeah, yeah. And now we start having beautiful weather. I live in Texas as well. So I know your journey. I looked at your professional journey, that you started as a QA engineer and now you are a CIO of a company. And that's quite a jump. And of course there is a lot of steps in between. And I was wondering, Tom, if you would bring us back to the beginning of your journey. Where did this journey to where you are now start?
So I graduated from college in civil engineering, which is roads and bridges, structural stuff, and I worked for the Mass Highway Department for about 5 years. Worked for a private consulting company for about a year, working on Massachusetts, the Big Dig Central Artery project. I didn't really enjoy civil engineering like I thought I did, and I had actually graduated college not knowing computers. I did buy one once. I had a full-time job and started learning about it. And about that time in Massachusetts, there was a lot of excitement in the mid '90s about you know high tech. I mean, because back then you really had Silicon Valley and Massachusetts as the two main areas in the U.S. where there was a lot of technology, and they called it high tech then. I mean, that was the term they
Mhm.
used. And I made a decision I wanted to get into it. So I bought a second computer for the house and bought software and studied a lot. And I was able to get a job at NEC testing laptops. So back in '97, I made the switch from civil engineering to testing laptops in Windows 95 and T4. At the time, NEC had a presence in the US selling laptops. So I worked there. And I kind of worked my way up over the years, over 25 years. I've worked for smaller startups. I've worked for larger companies like Compact Digital. I worked for Microsoft for a bit on Office 2010. And when Microsoft was getting ready to close that office down in Denver, I went to a global company named Maptek, which was software for mineral mining. And so unlike, it's not data mining, but more like AutoCAD for geology. And I did that for about 6 years and got to travel the world. That was really wound my way up in Texas at GM Financial, led some cloud for them, and then I had an opportunity to become a CIO, and that was really me to make that jump. It's hard over the years because there's always someone that would tell you you couldn't do something. You're just QA. You can't do development. You're just VP of cloud. How are you going to run a service desk? How are you going to run a data team? And it's just best not to listen to them, right? And then keep pushing hard and believing in yourself. So that's it in a nutshell.
Yeah, yeah. And I have a lot of questions about those voices, but later on in our
Mhm.
conversation.
Yeah.
When you started in tech and you bought this equipment and you started learning, what was the vision like in your wildest dreams at that point, a few good years back? what was the wildest dream that you will do in tech?
For me, it was getting into it, and unfortunately, I didn't have that grand vision that I should have. I didn't have it, honestly, and for me, there was a lot of self-doubt. I struggled with computers. I honestly did, right? And I took a programming class in '97 in C, that's the C programming language. Really had a hard time at it. And for me, it was just getting into the field and trying to get into a position where I felt like I could maintain it because there was some self-doubt.
Mm-hmm.
Despite a engineering degree, despite having been licensed as a professional engineer in Massachusetts, I still felt like the high tech world was beyond my reach.
Mm-hmm.
So, I did get the role and I did do well at it. So that gave me comfort. But originally, the goal wasn't to go really high. And I probably should have had that, but I didn't, nor did I have any mentors, which is my own fault for not seeking them out.
Mhm. So just getting started, getting in it. That was the goal, and taking it one day at a time. What would you
Yeah.
say, Tom, were some of the most significant stepping stones or events that got you to where you are today?
So one of them was when I left GTE into networking, I was working there and my previous manager started his own company as a startup. So I went to work for him. And one of I don't say the promises, but one of the agreements was, I'd get to work 2 days a week from home because this is back in 2000 where there wasn't a lot of work from
Hmm.
home. So, I mean, every Saturday and Sunday I got to work from home in addition to 5 days in the office. But I learned a lot during that 3 year period 3.5 years I worked there. Another big jump for me was around 2013 is getting more engaged with social media. I Someone had mentioned I should try to, set a goal to be, chief technology officer someplace. And I started researching it a little bit and I came across Martha Heller, who's a CIO recruiter, and she had a post, I think, in CIO.com saying that her clients were looking for candidates who had a presence, had a following on social media that spoke at events. And I really took that article to heart and then started engaging in social media, which I really was against, but I started doing that. I also joined a professional organization named Society for Information Management, which had basically for IT leaders. And through that organization, I met a lot of CIOs and I would try to take them to out for coffee or try to get advice
Hmm.
from them. And what I learned from them was they would tell me I was no different than them. Yeah, they may have a different role, but they weren't any better. They weren't any smarter. And again, I was no different. And so that really gave me a lot of confidence to continue, growing professionally.
Hmm. And what would you say was the biggest jump in your career?
I think the biggest jump was I went from Maptek, where I had a team of about seven, though I did have a lot of matrix people that would work for me. And I had a small role at Travelport, but then I jumped to GM Financial and I was leading about 167 at one point. So that was a pretty big jump. And I had 3 layers of leadership below me.
Hmm.
And that was a lot, right? It was it was a much larger company, a different IT team than I've been used to. GM Financial was more of a traditional IT shop than maybe a software development company like Microsoft or Maptek was.
Hmm.
And that was a big jump, and a lot to learn, a lot of different personalities, a lot of different approaches. So
I know that in the journey to success or the journey to reach our goals, there are a lot of opportunities that come to us and a lot of opportunities that we need to create. What would you say are some of the opportunities that you had to create for yourself?
I think when you look at the role I have now, that was a referral. And what happened was I had created opportunities for myself by engaging people in the DFW community through different organizations, through speaking on different panels or engaging in professional events. And I had met people, and one of the people I met was approached about the job I have now. He wasn't interested in it for various reasons, but knew
Hmm.
me and thought that this would be a really great role for me. And so, I had an interview at a Starbucks at 7 in the morning on a Saturday and had the offer by 7:30. So, I mean, that was all about, me making my own luck, as you say, by engaging the community and trying to be a positive force and meeting people and networking.
Mm. I learned the power of network again and again and again, and it is true. Like it's tempting to want to go and create opportunities on your own because you're thinking, okay, the network takes a while to build. It seems like a slow process, but if you are mindful about it, it can really help. Like I don't think I ever met like who has a lot of success that didn't do it based on a strong network. What would you say was one of your biggest challenges, Tom, that you had to overcome in this journey?
I think one of the challenges was a lot of the leadership at GM Financial. I had come in from, having worked at Microsoft, having worked at Maptek, organizations that embraced agile software development or DevOps or different approaches that were more modern. And the role of GM Financial was to transform a QA team. And where the real difference of opinion was is my idea of transformation and maybe the senior leadership's idea of transformation were two different things. I mean, I was talking about trying to get these manual testers and teach them software development, and I was sending them to courses at night. I had a special deal with one of the community colleges to teach them programming, and because I had the staff I had a lot of training money, so I was trying to send them to school at night and teach them automated testing and try to get them involved in agile. And then I was starting to push cloud when the organization was really cloud averse at the time. And that just caused a lot of conflict. And you're trying to explain, you know, where the world is going, where technology is going, what other companies are doing, and trying to, lead through influence. And that was many hard years. And, I eventually left for the CIO role. But, the company did start really going hard on cloud. I was able to get, I think, well over 150 certifications on my team. And then I was able to push that and influence the organization to get over 500 cloud certs. Whereas just a few years earlier, it was, we'll never go to cloud, we're financial services, and, that sort of thing. And it was a hard journey, right? And I wasn't going to give up because I was pretty sure I was right compared to, when you look at what Amazon does or Microsoft or Facebook or these larger companies, they're all, head first with agile and DevOps and those technologies. So
What is something that helped you navigate?
I think trying to understand what people's fears were,
Mm,
right? And I learned from a woman who worked for me, Thomas. She told me, people fear what they don't understand. And
mm,
so, I mean, that was a really good axiom she told me, and I learned it from one of my people. And once I figured that out, it was trying to understand where people's fears were, and then their fears were not being relevant, that their job would change, or they wouldn't be able to do the new job. So, and you're not going to get everyone to come along, but you're going to get many people if you can understand where their fears are and help to show them what the future is. Now, the world's going to change whether they want it to or not. That's
yeah.
the reality.
Yeah, and I think it goes back to communication. You mentioned communication earlier. So if we do not communicate enough, then we do not address the fear that people might have because they don't understand enough. So I think that's a very good point. Yeah, and you mentioned at the beginning of our conversation about those voices that were not necessarily supportive. So how did you overcome those?
I mean, it's hard at times, right? You just have to, believe in yourself. I mean, some of these came from executive recruiters,
Mm,
and I have my own thoughts on recruiters. I mean, I think they look at the role that they have. They don't really care about you so much as they care about filling the role they have. And I think again, it's just believing in yourself, and then reading about other people who've overcome all sorts of adversity. I mean, you've heard all the stories about people who've moved here from other countries where they were poor and they become millionaires or they started businesses. So many people do this and they're able to overcome challenges far greater than I've ever overcome. So I mean, if they can do it, then I can also do it.
mhm. So just seeing other people's examples, that's what helped you believe that if it's possible for you, it's possible.
It's also trying to look at what you listen to. I mean, if you listen to podcasts that talk about success and podcasts that talking about business, that's a little bit easier to help reinforce these beliefs than some people who just maybe watch, sitcoms or comedies all the time, right? You have to kind of continually surround yourself with the right stimulus.
Yeah, we're a collection of small decisions that we make at every step of our way. If someone would consider starting on a similar journey with yours, and they would ask you to mentor them, what would be some of the golden nuggets that you would share with them to support them on this journey and not get discouraged and get what they want?
Ask them how much effort they're really willing to put into it.
Mm,
I mean, are they willing to, if they have 10 commutes to work, are they willing to listen to books or podcasts or webinars for 6 of the 10? I'm not saying every waking moment has to be listening to something to grow you, but are they willing to put time in to invest in themselves? I mean, I've had people work for me in the past, and then one guy said, IT is the only career where people expect you to learn on your own time, which isn't true, right? I mean, we dentists and doctors are always learning and growing, and you're really the CEO of you. And
mm,
especially when you're working in IT, it's always changing. And unfortunately, I know a number of people who will let go from various positions and layoffs, probably due to no fault of themselves, but they were not able to ever gain employment in IT again. They just either became too depressed, they didn't have a current skill set anymore. You always have to keep learning because it's always changing. And I've known people who've had to, fly to different parts of the country for work because they're working in an old system. So getting back to the mentorship is someone has to be willing to continually learn and grow to stay valuable, because you get paid to do what other people can't, and you have to have a current skill set. And not everyone really wants to put that effort in.
yeah.
And that's true even at the highest levels too. There are many, people at the C level who stop learning, and they
Mhm.
think they don't have to do that anymore. But
Yeah. So starting with the question, are you willing to do what I had to do or what I've done? Yeah. Just
I
getting
mean,
clear on that.
ideally they would do it better than me, but yeah, are
Mhm.
they willing to invest time to make that commitment?
What is one lesson that you would not like to relearn in your journey?
I think sometimes I've react too easily. It's sometimes when, I'm reasonably calm, but I do have a little temper, and trying not to. I can't think of a specific case, and if I did, I probably wouldn't say it. But just relaxing before responding. Right? Don't respond when you're angry. Right? Because you know that's nothing good ever comes from that.
That was an early lesson that I had to learn too, especially in traffic.
Yeah.
Respond versus react. What is a goal that you're currently working towards?
I'm working towards making my company as successful as we can be. We're private equity backed. We purchased 6 companies so far, and we're integrating them, and we'll buy more. And looking at this opportunity to assemble an IT organization from scratch, including all the policies, all the cybersecurity, the HR tooling, the ERP systems, the CRM, the endpoint, all the different applications, and to be able to look at that and build it like I think it needs to be built, and doing it right based on, my definition, and
Mhm.
pulling it all together. And that's a really great goal for me, because I've always had a lot to say about how things are run. So now this is my opportunity to build it right and to demonstrate that yes, it is going to work perfect. So
Yeah, I can see it in your face that you're visualizing, like you know how it would look like, and it's
Mhm.
going to be so good. Wonderful. I wish you all the best on that goal. It seems like it's not a easy one, so it's definitely a challenge. Seems like you love a little challenge in your life. And I want to thank you so much for joining this conversation and being willing to share your journey other people for other people to how you have built what you have built and what you have today. And be inspired that is possible for them as well. Thank you. I hope this episode gave you some inspiration for reaching your goals. If you found it useful, please hit the subscribe button. This will help me bring you more inspirational stories to support your own journey to point B. Thank you.